Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Tone Talk with Mark Uzansky and Dave Friedman. It's Friday night and it's 8 o'clock or a little bit after. Long week. We've got Chris Van Tassel from J Rockett Audio Designs. Chris, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm awesome, man. Thanks for joining us. Dave, how are you?
It's been a long week,
Yeah, man.
but yeah, we
Yeah.
got over in the other room here. We got Sammy Bowler that's working in the studio next to me.
What's he doing?
Oh, he's here. He's here for 2 weeks actually. He's been crashing on my couch.
Nice.
You have a recording studio attached?
We do have a recording studio in here. Yes, we do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we do. And he's gonna do some playthrough videos for his album that's coming out. And he's gonna do a video with Michael Nielsen.
Oh, nice.
Doing, I don't know. Other than that, he's been working on tabs for his whole entire record and wanting to pull his hair out.
Why is he doing that?
Is he going to recreate that Billy Squier video from the 80s where he's all dressed in pink dancing around the bedroom?
I'll suggest that, but I don't think that would be a wise move for his career.
Yeah.
Or maybe it would be these days. I don't know.
It would be a funny spoof. That would be hilarious.
Well,
Wow.
Billy Squier could come out today and say, I don't identify as that guy anymore. Be politically correct.
Wait. He really did?
Yeah, like that video, he admits, just completely destroyed his career.
Yeah. And it did.
If you watch the video, you're going to go, yeah, I get it.
Well, I get it. Yeah.
It's too bad. He was great.
He was great.
That early era with Jeff Golub on guitar and everything. Oh man, he was great. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Marshall tones.
Jeff Golub died, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So many people from that era.
Did they record in Sound City?
I don't really know. No, I think it would have been New York, probably. I guess. Well, I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the sound of the production just sounded familiar, you know. But like you said, great guitar work.
Oh yeah.
I remember learning that Stroke Me tune. It was great.
Yeah, I still play Lonely as the Night.
It's just a raw. It was a raw, opened up Marshall in a great studio with tape.
Yeah.
It just sounded like it had that kerrang to it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Lonely as the Night, the opening riff. Come on.
Yeah. It's Led Zeppelin. It sounds a lot. What's that, Chris?
I had some of the, I don't know, I'll call them Nashville type players over the other day, and we just took a 100-watt old 1970 Marshall and just cranked it. I don't think these guys had ever heard that in their lives, and you could just see their entire lives just changed from that moment. They're like, seriously, this exists? It was so loud, but I mean, you just can't replace that sound. That was that day that I said I'd plug the ape in. For the first
Oh
time.
yeah, the ape into the 100-watt RGS and the other one or whatever you had there.
Yeah, and oh man, I'm still a little bit deaf, so if I'm yelling at you, that's why.
Well,
The key is to face the cabinet away from you. Not go anywhere. It's like where I'm sitting. It would be. I put the cabinet on the other side of the room, facing away from me.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've got. You remember how you had referred me to what's it called? Look at it, that amp switcher.
Yeah.
I ended up buying one of those, and I built this. It's right behind you guys, but I built this 3-shelf system with all the amp heads on it, and at the very bottom are just like, a couple of 112s and a 210. That's all that would fit under there. But one of the 112s has an EVM 12L in it, and that's what I'm able to run the 100 watters through. And that is a spiky speaker.
Yes, it is. That hurts me thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but fortunately, like the amps stacked on each other were covering up the speaker, so it wasn't hitting me straight in the face. But it's so loud.
Wow. Ouch.
I know.
Ouch.
but like you said, it sounded great, though, right?
It really did, because it has that raw sound. Because we were comparing it to some more modern day higher gain amps, and they just don't have that openness to them. Not that it's bad either way, but that's a sound you just don't hear anymore. Everybody here just has a small little combo, and You know, they all do their Broadway gigs with those. They're never lighting it up, you know.
Exactly. Or they're running it through an attenuator, or
Yeah.
you know, so like an aux box or something. So
Yeah.
just so people know what we're talking about, here's the product. This is
The ape.
the ape. It's a very, very cool product.
I want one.
All right. I'll send you one.
Yeah, it's really cool. You have to like we were talking about. It's not. It doesn't have a delay in it. You have to plug your
No, I know.
delay into it. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just telling the audience. But
Yeah, you plug your delay into it, or you can just use it as color in front, and you know. And
Yeah, and it's nice because if you don't have anything in the loop, the input and output they normal. So the record head becomes a gain, the mix knob becomes an output, and the repeats knob becomes a treble.
Perfect.
Right? It's weird because you can go through the guitar input and then out of the send, and it just becomes a monstrous boost.
and it sounds great.
I haven't discovered about it, to be honest with you, but yeah, you know, the way this thing came about is we always wanted to do something like that, but I never really thought about it. And then I have a friend here. His nickname is Ebo. He does a lot of like Tom Bukovacs repairs and stuff like that. But he worked with Mike Battle for years, the guy that invented the Echoplex.
Yeah.
And Mike Battle passed away, but he has a bunch of his old projects or schematics of things that had never been released. And he came to us with this thing and said, you know, this was something that he was planning on trying to do because the Echoplex had become so popular for its preamp. And I just said, yeah, bring me what you got. And he just brought me kind of a breadboarded version of it. And we looped a digital delay through it. It worked perfectly. It was kind of surprising, but it sounded great because it's a real Echoplex through and through, running it, it's got a DC to DC converter, so it's running at 22.5 volts.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It took us a while to really decide to release it because we didn't know if people would really get it, you know.
But
so
there've been a few other products that were similar, not exactly like yours, but at least the front end preamps and stuff. I remember the first one I ever saw was one from Cinch Effects in Australia or something, where he did the preamp front end.
Yeah.
Not with all the loop and everything, but you know, he just did the preamp front end, and that was pretty cool. But I like the way this one's laid out. It looks great. So
yeah, well, I'll send you one. When you try it, you'll notice that it's kind of like I explained it. It's like it's virtual tape because you set your delay at one repeat and then 100% wet.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really work that well with delays that don't go 100% wet, but
right.
Because it's kind of taking an analog reproduction of that one digital repeat, the delays kind of melt away into a reverb like a tape delay does. So it actually gives the same effect. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
But you have to, like if let's say you use a tape delay that's already modeled after an Echoplex, you can use it for the tape warble or you have to change your delay time and things like that there, but it actually does make any of the pedals that I've run through it that are supposed to be tape delays, they just sounded better. So it's a great tool. But I'd be happy to, want to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, I'd love to. So you said when you use it without a delay in it, on one of the knobs becomes more like a tone knob?
Yeah, so if you just use it as a in front of a delay, you just go output to the delay input. When you click the loop on, that engages basically the use of the knob, so to speak. If you just turn the pedal on, it just gives that typical coloring of an Echoplex.
Yeah.
You don't really have any volume control like an Echoplex. But once you engage that loop, then the record head becomes a gain. The mix becomes an output, and then the repeats becomes a treble.
Mm.
But I really like it if I hit it if I use it as a boost to an overdrive in front of it because it gives it that Echoplex throaty sound, a really nice throaty mid range to whatever drive you're putting in front of it. But man, there's probably a lot of stuff that we haven't discovered with it. Somebody will probably discover, because once you start plugging into the sends and the returns, one acts as a hot output that doesn't have any, it can't be bypassed. The other one becomes an output where all the controls actually affect it. But yeah, it's just an interesting pedal. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there that's just the same thing being released in a different box 1,000 times. We're guilty of it as well, but just couldn't do another overdrive. Thought it was interesting, so gave it a shot.
Yeah,
super cool.
I totally dig it.
Can't wait to try it.
Yeah, and you would use it in front of the amp. That's the bottom line. You're using this in front of the amp, not in the loop.
Yeah, correct.
Yep.
Well, I suppose you could if you like how you put a boost through a loop.
Right. I guess you could do that.
Yeah. I honestly have no idea what would happen if you put it through a loop and then loop something into it. Like I tried looping phasers and flangers into the 8 pedal, but I didn't really get results. But you can loop a boost into it, and it actually works. So whoever gets one out there, just experiment. Plug in all the holes.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. I'm glad you have one, though. I'm glad you have one, because I don't even have one here to show.
No problem, man. Yeah, I'll show it again, just so everybody can see.
Not very prepared, are you?
Yes, I am.
He's prepared.
Cheers.
So there's the pedal. You guys can grab it at Sweetwater. I'll post a link to this pedal in the description of our video later after we're done. So if you guys want to grab it, click the link, all right?
Cool.
Hey.
Yeah.
Just telling Mark, he called me, for the setup for the show, and I literally was just playing "Living After Midnight" on my guitar through this Axe Effects, and he shows up with his Judas Priest shirt. So, karma.
Exactly. By the way, I wanted to talk about the way we got a super chat from Wyatt Willis. He says, I heard Billy Squire's Marshalls on that album were modded by Frank Levi.
That is correct. He worked on all of Billy's amps for basically his whole career. Until Frank died. Of course.
Huh, interesting. Also was looking at another EP preamp pedal for Christmas. Then I see Jay Rockett's new release. Yeah, man, grab it.
There you go. Click the link Mark's going to put in the video.
Yeah, click the link, man, when I put it after the show. Dan Pfeiffer said, "Mark, I'll be in town the week of February. Let's finally grab a beer." Yeah, man, totally. I should be around. It'll be after NAMM. And yeah, dude, your Axe Effects sounded pretty good, Chris.
Oh yeah, I was showing here, Dave. See if you can see that. Got this guitar. You see the headstock? Have you ever heard?
Yeah, AXN. That I know that place.
So I took a chance on another one that I have over there. I think I bought it for $1,000 or $1,200. And when I got it, it was a brick. I mean, heavy as hell. I think it's maple. And needed a setup big time. Didn't like it at first, but once I got it set up, I actually really liked it. So I found this one as well for like $1,000. Same thing, got it set up, and it's awesome for that 80s thing. I don't know their whole story.
I don't know much about that either. I know they sell old stuff, and they sell guitars that they make, and I bought a pickup from them once.
Oh, so this is the thing that's on eBay, that company that sells stuff, AXN. Okay.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Gotcha.
And they have a website, but one of the things I heard is that I think it's the owner or one of the guys used to work for Wayne Charvel or Grover Jackson or somebody in the day, and he kind of either stole or mapped out the templates for like all the Rockstar guitars, neck specs and body specs and stuff like that. But if you look at them, like this guitar here is the Kramer Beretta shape basically, and then they have Strat shape ones and like that. Who knows how authentic it is, but I like them.
Is it made in China?
No. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I don't think so. I mean, on his site, they're $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for some of these.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's why, man, I found this thing used. But when I got it in, somebody had put some crazy, like, attempt at a super circuit in there and had trim pots and stuff around the volume pot. It was horrible. That sounds great. Now, it had a 1984 Floyd Rose already on it.
Oh, nice. Cool. There you go.
Yeah.
With a big block on it and everything?
Yeah, big. Let me see here. I think it's a big brass. No.
Normal one, right?
I don't know, man. I can't tell. You're the expert. Can you see that?
Oh, that looks like a steel block. It's a big block.
Yeah, it's really pretty simple, but you know me, Dave. It's trapped in the 80s.
So me too, man.
Some good guitars back there that are super cool. The Explorers back there, and
he's got the Megazone.
Yeah, the I guess they call him a Hydra.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I bought that guitar from a guy who was building with or for Wayne Charvel when it was Wayne Guitars. I've got that and then another Wayne guitar down here, and he was just like, man, I need to get rid of these. You want to buy them? And he sold them to me for cheap. But I found out that particular guitar was actually played by Eddie at a NAMM show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He made it for him for something. How true it is, I don't know, but that was the story. But got it for cheap, and then that Ibanez V was my high school guitar. And then, of course, I had to find the Explorer, which is the Iron Maiden guitar, right, that Smith played at one point.
Yeah, sure.
You can find it for like $800 out there.
Is that a Setneck one? So that's the Adrian Smith. What?
It's not an Adrian Smith model. It's the Rockett Roll 2, and
from who was it from again? Wait,
it's Ibanez.
Ibanez, right? Yeah. So, but it's a Setneck, right?
It's Setneck. Yeah, I guarantee it.
I don't know. Let me look. That's pretty sad, huh? Sorry. Nope, unfortunately, it's bolt-on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, well, they sound great, but I don't know, it was more of a
Do you guys
thing from my childhood.
You guys have this?
I do have that book.
I don't.
Oh, dude, you need to have
This
it.
is cool, dude. This is all from the Japan 1978 tour of Van Halen.
Oh,
the
really?
pictures in here are priceless. It's all pictures, the whole thing.
It comes from Japan, Chris, but you can order it on the Van Halen store.com.
Well,
Someone gave it to me for my birthday, which is next week, and man, there's some great pictures.
Yeah, it's a great book.
and it's getting to the point where I think he's getting a whole new respect as the younger generation starts discovering him.
Oh, yeah.
Could be.
If you see it, can you see over my head? You can see the black and white there.
Yep.
So that guitar, back in the day when Fender was doing like those $25,000 Eric Clapton Blackie guitars, stuff like that, I'm like, I was never a huge Clapton fan, but I decided to commission this guy to build a Van Halen guitar, because it wasn't a real guitar per se. And I ended up buying the neck and the body from Lynn Ellsworth, or the guy that took over his shop. And they gave me a certificate of authentication that was from the same wood stock. So it's like a 40-year-old piece of wood, the neck and the body. And he said it was from the same wood stock that Eddie's guitar was built from. So it's a true Boogie Body's neck and body, which, the original Charvels were Boogie Body's part. And so it doesn't have the skunk stripe on the back. It's got that 70s headstock with the faded Gibson logo on it.
Nice.
So I actually think it's probably the most authentic Van Halen clone guitar out there. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Based on the woods. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Oh, there's yours, the lefty version.
Yeah. I keep going the other way. Yeah, the lefty version. Yeah, I love that guitar. I got mine. The body is, I think, Music Craft, and the neck came from Warmouth.
Okay.
So, not from Eddie's run. So it's funny. I was going to do a little intro with. I posted earlier that your name is Chris Van Tassel, and my wife's always joking because I'm such an Ed freak. She's like, we should call you Mark Van Husansky. So it's like, or Mark Van Zansky. So.
That's too Southern rock.
Van Zansky?
That's true. Van Zansky would be very Southern rock, wouldn't it?
That is Southern Rock. That's true.
You are in Florida, though. You know, all my life, well, I shouldn't say all my life until I discovered this, I thought that Lynyrd Skynyrd was from Alabama, probably like everybody else did. Probably 5 years ago is when I actually learned they were from Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Like all those bands, like 38 Special, Molly Hatchet, all those bands were from Jacksonville. It's kind
Yeah,
of crazy.
interesting, right?
You know, there was a scene there.
Yeah, who knew? And like Tom Petty came from Gainesville, which is right over there. So I love all that Southern rock. Dave, do you like Southern rock?
You know, when I was a kid, during like the 80s, I hated Southern rock. Now I have a new respect for it. I think now I like it. Now, yeah. Now there's a whole new respect for it now. From me.
Yeah. Well,
they all sounded great.
Yeah, those are great
Some
bands.
great songs written, you know.
Yeah, Molly Hatchet, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Yeah, I was sad to see that Ed King recently passed away. I think it was this year, right?
Yeah, it was.
Year.
I actually got to play his Les Paul down at Carter Vintage. They pulled it out of the case.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They had the Strat, though, there. That was the guitar for Sweet Home Alabama.
What were they selling that for?
I think it only sold, I shouldn't say that. I thought it would have sold for more, but I think it was like 450,000.
That's all.
That's
all.
Yeah. Such an iconic instrument, though.
A house.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, he was really like a very low key dude.
Yeah, I didn't even know he lived here. I learn every day somebody new who's either moved here or already lived here for quite a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of people moving to Nashville. It's crazy. It's like that whole area is just exploding. It has been for several years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's exploding.
Yeah, it is exploding. The traffic reflects it, that's for sure.
Yeah. I don't think the infrastructure meets the amount of traffic yet.
Oh, yeah, they're torturing the 440 freeway here right now, trying to widen it. So, I don't know, maybe the traffic's a little bit better than we think just because everything's so choked down from the construction, but yeah.
It'll be LA before you know it.
I know, 72-lane freeways. It will, you know.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the music business is small enough, but I do believe that people from every industry are moving here. I think Mitsubishi's moving here, so you're going to get that influx. I believe Amazon.
I was just going to say Amazon, I heard, was moving.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, we're seeing it, but kind of glad we got in when we did.
Yeah, because the real estate's going to go up as the popularity goes up.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, what's that, Dave?
It already has.
It already has, yeah, exactly.
It has.
Yeah, you got to go further away.
Still nowhere near Florida or California, that's for sure.
Well, Florida's okay, but California's ridiculous.
Yeah.
California's stupid.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It is stupid. It's ridiculous.
Like a shack for $1 million.
You got to be Dave Friedman rich to afford to live there.
I don't own my own house.
No, yeah, you rent.
I was in San Diego. I was there for 20 years.
Were you in San Diego?
Yeah, for a long time.
Which part?
Kind of all over. The last place that I lived was kind of up in the hills of Vista. But I lived in Carlsbad for years, Encinitas, Solana Beach. I was always in North County, but...
That's a beautiful area.
Beautiful. Yeah, young.
I'm going down there tomorrow.
Are you?
I have a clinic at Pitbull Audio.
Nice. Yeah, they're one of our dealers down in Chula Vista. Or
National City.
Yeah.
Southern.
So that's with Steve Stevens and Sammy?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I get to leave while it's raining, bright and early at 10 a.m. to get down there for 2. Hopefully.
Wow.
Have you been there before?
To San Diego?
No, to Pitbull.
No, never been to Pitbull.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice shop. It's a big kind of a shop and a warehouse all in one.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, haven't been there. Don't know what I'm doing. Going there for a clinic, and I'll say something to someone.
Just bring this, and everything will be okay. I promise.
Yeah, well, yeah, until I start slurring my words, and and then it's like a train wreck.
Train wreck.
Well, that'll be a great segue into talking about train wreck amps.
I've already seen enough video of myself slurring.
Yeah, that's hard to look at.
I watched some videos from Europe when I was in Europe at the
Hennings
the Hennings event over there, and I'm like going, oh. Well, I mean, it wasn't really bad, but I could tell, the little.
There was one video
slur on the end of your speech
with Rick Hollis. I think with Rick.
Yeah. Finally, I'm like, all talking, and I'm going, "This is your video. You talk."
That's funny.
Yeah, that's always good to have immortalized, right?
Yeah, forever.
Over.
It's fine.
Yeah, we're all human.
Whatever. Well, we were all having fun, and let's make videos. Yeah, okay, great.
That's what Paris Hilton said.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but
the very first really drunk video I ever did was years ago at the NAMM show.
Mm.
And Premier Guitar at the time used to come and cover the NAMM show when the NAMM show was a bigger event. And literally it was the second day, or maybe it was the end of the first day, the end of the day. And we had in the NAMM shows, we would always fill the bathtub up with ice and throw a bunch of beer in there and stuff for people. So when they came in, they could get a beer. And yeah, but it was the end of the day. Like literally the last hour. And they come in the room. Hey, we want to do a video. You want to do it now? Okay.
Let it rip.
Yeah.
I think as I've gotten older, the slurring happens easier. It's a weird thing.
That's a gift. A lot less expensive.
But I did well in the video, surprisingly. I look back on it now, it's probably still somewhere, and I go, wow, that's pretty good, considering I probably couldn't see straight.
Yeah, I'm gonna go have to search for that one now.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody is right now. They're like putting that down on the.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, it couldn't be any worse than Jake. So.
See, Aaron Cram here in the chat says, I would pay to see Trainwreck Dave. How much?
You don't have to pay. Just go watch the Jakey Lee video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's free.
It's exactly. You don't have to pay for that.
Free. But make sure you tune in at least, after, definitely by the 2 hours in, we're long gone.
Yeah. About the 2 hour mark, 2.5 hours. It
starts to go. Circle the drain fast.
Exactly. He's taking smoking breaks. It gets all.
Yeah, it's circling the drain fast. Yeah.
I have to send you guys a copy of this video. We haven't edited or anything, but I saw the one camera rough of it. We brought. Do you guys know Mark Lettieri?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was Mark Lettieri, Sean Tubbs, and a guy down here named Joe West, who's a songwriter producer here. That was a recording studio, and. We set up 3 cameras, had a pro guy come here, and it was on our back deck during the summertime. And we set up a couple of guitars and 3 seats, and they sat there, and we turned the cameras on. And the whole premise was we had about 5 different bottles of bourbon, cigars, and pipes, right? Because Sean Tubbs he's a pipe guy. He's there are things about pipes I never knew until that night. But they're smoking and drinking and playing back and forth. Nothing real serious. But as the night went on, they were getting a little bit more drunk each time. And I think it filmed for 3 hours straight. And I sent it to a friend of mine here who's a guitar player. And he's like, oh, my God, that's the greatest thing I think I've ever seen. Because there are things that they don't want to say, which I'm going to say on video here. But Joe West goes, so what do you guys think about Jeff Beck, right? And, of course, they're like, oh, my God, Jeff Beck, he's the great, blah, 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 blah. Joe goes, I don't get it. I can't stand Jeff Beck. Mark Theory's hammered. He jumps up and he's like, Dilly, Dilly, kick him off the edge. They're like, you cannot release that video.
Yeah, I'm releasing it.
Yeah, I have to send you the whole unedited version. And then, do you guys not know Michael Britt?
Yeah.
So Mike shows up a little bit later and just say he had the munchies and brought his own box of Oreos and suddenly made his way on camera. It was like a dog staring into the camera.
That's funny.
But
That's good TV right there. That's good TV. You got to release the video.
Oh my god! Yeah, I would be tortured if I released it in its full by these guys because there were some brutal things. I mean, it wasn't like insulting things, but stuff like that they don't want out there.
Right.
It was funny though.
I remember one time a friend of mine. He basically came out and said he probably was drunk. He was like, I think John Bonham sucks. The whole room turns around and looks at him and is like, we're going to throw you out the window right now. What the fuck?
It is
What do you mean? We just got all over his shit.
No doubt. How do you think that? That's crazy.
Many years later, he started to see that he was wrong.
Well, there's always somebody who's different, right?
I kind of feel like Joe West is going to have that moment later on in life about Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. By the way, we had a question about Mark Lettieri from Dan Pfeiffer. He says, Chris, can you talk about the Mark Lettieri signature pedal? Very interested in getting one. Would love to hear what style of overdrive or circuit it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, if he's a Snarky Puppy or Lettieri fan, he knows that the dude is, like, the funkiest white guy ever, right? But he gets gigs. Like, I think he toured with Erykah Badu, and then he tours with Snarky Puppy, and then he does his own thing. So a bunch of different styles of music, and he was just looking for an overdrive that kind of could accommodate all of that. So it's kind of a smooth, warm overdrive with that built-in EQ so that he can kind of dial it in to any rig that he's got or any style of music. He was a big fan of the Blue Note and the Dude and what was the other one? I believe it was the GTO or the Majestic, something like that. And he's like, could we have 17 switches and 40 different clipping circuits? And I'm like, we could, but nobody's going to buy it. So we just kind of simplified it and kind of made it have a little bit of each of those flavors in it with an EQ. But it's a really musical pedal, and I find it. I didn't know how I would like having that EQ, which was kind of Steve Stevens' idea when we did that Rockaway. He just said, "Hey, I use a clon into a gigantic EQ. Is there any way you can just build it all in one?" We said, "We'll give it a shot," and then that turned out to be a successful pedal just in its design. So we just took a different clipping circuit that we designed for Mark and used the same EQ on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's a great pedal too. The Rockaway Archer is a great pedal.
Yeah, it worked. You know, sometimes you have these ideas, as you know, Dave, that sound great until you put them together.
I always sort of tell people about that pedal. Be careful if you want the, say a mid boost with the EQ or something. Cut the high and bass frequencies. Don't boost the mids up because you're going to get a lot more noise because you're just boosting the hell out of everything. And start off with cutting the frequencies.
Yeah.
If you want less bass and more mids, cut the bass and cut the highs, and then you'll still have the same curve, but you're not boosting a huge dB,
Yeah.
It's
funny you say that because we actually say that in the instructions is the art of EQing, right? Is what you take away, not what you add. And
take away first from center. Don't just jack it up because it's like, I don't know how many dB a boost each band is, but I'm sure plenty.
Yeah, each band on that pedal, both pedals, is 20 dB of boost or cut.
Yeah,
wow.
So
Yeah, it can get super loud. So like you could really, if you want to torture yourself, you can push the front end.
Yeah,
Right.
and then it just gets hissier though. The gain
Yeah.
structure gets out
Yeah.
of whack.
Right, exactly. So here's the
And
pedal. I'll put a link to this pedal also for everybody. This is a great pedal. I love it.
Rockaway Archer. It's a cool pedal. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Stevens, J Rockett Audio. Good
yeah,
stuff.
we kind of quit doing that whole signature thing per se. Like, we did the Allen Holdsworth signature pedal or the whatever signature pedal. And I think it's true that a lot of players just don't want somebody else's name on their product. And so with Steve, we tried to be a little bit clever, and Rockaway came from the fact that he grew up in Rockaway, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's just, kind of appropriate, right?
Yeah, it fits, right?
And then if you look at the melody, the M and the L are blacked out for Mark Lettieri, and then OD for melody, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think we outsmarted ourselves on that one. But it's pretty cool. But I do like them. We'll probably be retiring a few pedals. Like, it's really hard now to introduce like a trem or a standalone reverb, things like that, because guitar players can go out and buy Strymon stuff or whatever that has everything in one box for $300 or whatever. It's hard to sell a standalone trem, So
yeah,
that's why we're trying to get out into the DSP world, so we can kind of compete there, but still have that, warm analog front end on everything. That's the hard part.
Right. We have a super chat from Harmonicaster. If you put a three-way switch on a pedal that's not connected to anything, will guitarists say they can hear the difference?
Hell yeah, they will.
Called the producer switch.
I just say it's real subtle, and then it's like, oh yeah, I hear it, it's doing it, and you're just sitting there going, you're just laughing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Well, it's like whenever like you talked to Mark, not Mark, Chris, you talked about your amp switcher you have now, and
Yeah.
it's when you use amp switchers. I do that all the time when people want to A/B something or listen to something. So I do that all the time, but I always make them turn their back to it. And then we dial it in and all that, because the minute they know which amp they're on, they will always be biased to whatever they think in their head's going to sound best. And I've proved this over and over and over again. And in fact, I did it today.
We had so many of those Klon Archer videos that we did exactly that same way, because as soon as somebody sees a $2,500 Klon against a $199 version of it, every time they're going to pick the Klon because they're just emotionally connected to it. Mm-hmm. But every time we had them turn their back, they just could not make up their mind. It's funny.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise. Yeah. It's just circuits and transistors. I mean, it's not like, fairy dust. That's
It is to a lot of people, though.
Yeah, it's true.
It's impossible to explain that. Yeah, in the studio, we would do that very thing. Hey, can you bring that up in my headphones? Sure. Is that better? Yeah, way better.
Didn't move anything.
Yeah, all the time.
Oh, man. That's funny. Hey, you want to hear something actually interesting? So I had gotten, it's in the other room, but I had gotten an 80s Kramer Focus 1000, which was kind of cool, lefty. But it came with a three-way switch, and I had it plugged into a Kemper, and I was playing it, and I couldn't tell what the frickin' three-way switch. I thought the three-way switch was dead. Like, I didn't think it was doing anything. I kept going back and forth with the three-way switch. Like, I don't hear a difference at all. And then when I brought the guitar in and plugged into the into a real amp and messed with it, then I was like, oh, okay, it's a coil cut. All right, I got it. I couldn't tell the difference on the Kemper. And that was surprising to me. I was like, wow, but as soon as I plugged into a real amp, I was able to tell the difference immediately. So that was shocking.
Yeah, I get the whole Kemper aspect.
Yeah, my old Kramer.
There you go. Oh, you got the nice headstock too.
Yeah, no, I got the cool, the whatever, beak neck,
the beak
whatever you
neck.
call it.
Yeah.
Good one.
Whatever, yeah.
Get that refretted.
Oh yeah, I got that somewhere in the mess over there is an '85 Beretta.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah,
I
they
heard-
are.
I have an old Beretta too from the time I was a kid.
Yeah, I think I got a. I don't know, Dave, but we're probably similar in age. But for when I graduated high school, I got one of the first pointy headstock Charvels, and my parents bought it for me, and they didn't really, ask me what I liked, and they got me a pointy headstock Charvel with 3 single coils and a Kahler trem on it. And I'm like,
I remember the killer trims, but wow, 3 single coils. Whoops.
yeah, and I'm like, oh, what do you say? I was like, because I wanted that Kramer Beretta, the Van Halen thing all the way. And
Yeah.
that was, I remember that. I had that guitar for years. I finally had it routed out to stick a
Humbucker.
back, and
Those necks were cool though.
yeah, they were. That's
Yeah.
what on this guitar that I guess you can see it. It has a very similar neck to the early '80s, like they call them the San Dimas era. I don't even know what that means, but it has a neck like those original Charvels.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're beefy, heavy. Because I think some of the new stuff. I have one of the
It's
new.
thin. They're thin. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're hard to keep, diced up because they just the necks bend and especially here, right? Because it gets so humid. But I actually prefer these so far out of my '80s and yours, to be honest with you, Dave. When I was playing that green one at NAMM, remember when you, me, and Andy Wood were just sitting there playing Van Halen licks all day?
Which green one was that?
It was kind of like a sparkly green.
We just had a it was just a Cali guitar, I think. That was his.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I mean, you just know you don't want to put them down, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That
Well,
was fun.
yeah, I have my Cali too. That's another one of those shred machines. But
My Cali was stolen by an artist.
really? Not
Well, I
actually
mean,
stolen.
Not
He swiped.
technically stolen, but he swiped it, and I don't think I'm getting it back. Which is really kind of sad.
Who's the artist? Can't say.
He's playing with David Lee Roth.
Oh, okay. I know who that is. All right.
Yeah, me too.
Everyone
I
knows who it is then.
just sent him a Rockaway Archer.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That's all right. That just means he loves the guitar, right?
Yeah, I haven't talked to him, so I assume he didn't return it. So yes,
Well, let him play it on stage.
Yeah.
he's going to.
Okay, that's the whole point, right? Exactly.
It's in this. That would be the whole point of letting a guitar. Yeah.
Exactly.
Artist getting a guitar means please play it on stage. Otherwise, I might want to take this back.
Right.
I bet he will. Yeah, Mark and I were just talking about that last night. You probably know him as well, a longtime friend of mine, Brian Young. Do you know him?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I don't really know him, but I know of him. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We were talking about how he was offered the gig recently and turned it down.
Uh-huh.
And I was telling Mark, because he plays for a band called the Spasmatics down in Austin.
Yeah.
And he makes more money with that band than he's ever made in his career. And he played with Dave for like 5 years.
Right.
Amazing.
And it's kind of like that's the way it's going these days is if you really want to make money as a musician, it's not about creating music and selling it because music has no value anymore. But doing stuff like that, those kind of corporate 80s gigs and stuff like that, those guys are just killing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know. I think I could probably sell my soul out and play that stuff because, you just learn the same thing. You don't have to be creative at all. It's kind of mind numbing, but at least you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if you're making good money.
Good paid.
Yeah. That's the hardest part today.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it depends. I mean, so there's some people who are like all about the art. Yeah, but ultimately, you're not going to make any money.
Oh. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So, as painful as it is, as you know, Dave, on the retail manufacturing side of things, I would hate to be out there trying to make a living as a guitar player. Mostly because I suck.
Right.
Hey. that hasn't stopped people from getting famous, right?
No, well, it's funny. I watched the whatever country music awards was recently on,
Hmm.
and I said this last year, I think, as well, Dave, when we were on the show. But I enjoyed it so much more than any pop music show because it was actual guitars, bands playing, guitar solos, amps on the stage.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm turning country.
Yeah, well, I mean, country is, 80s pop, hard rock now.
Little lap field.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Def Leppard, back with some violins.
Maybe Mark Van Zansky is not too far off then.
Maybe not.
That's funny. That's funny.
Wear your Judas Priest shirts, just say, but at heart, I'm truly a rocker, but I'm really Mark Van Zansky playing country.
I'm gonna have to come up with a shirt or something. Van Zansky. That's so funny.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man. Speaking of hot products that recently, did you guys see the product that Yoshi just released with Boss? Those headphones.
Yes, isn't it a wireless thing that goes in with an app and headphones or something? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically.
Looked at closely, but yeah.
Yeah, well, they sold out in a day everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a good idea for traveling.
Yeah, exactly. Traveling or just sitting.
Super good.
Yeah, I was like, I grabbed a pair. Let's give
it the boss. Let's give it the boss here for the last few years. The last several, since Yoshi came back and stuff. They keep product after product keep knocking out of the park.
Oh, I know. I have. Let's see if I can. Well, that crash was it. Let's see if it's well made.
What was that?
We're gonna find out.
I bought one of these.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah. You know what?
They're great.
So that's great.
It
really, really works well. And because I just put a small pedal board together for Sammy for the clinic and for NAMM,
Right.
instead of bringing his whole thing out from Detroit, which is another board I built that's bigger with real pedals and stuff. And we just did it with that, a separate compressor pedal and an expression pedal on it. And man, it really sounds great. Everything in it works, and it all works well.
And it's crazy because it's $299.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, everything works really well in it. I mean, the gate works really well. Everything works really well.
I know.
And like you can set it up in a little 4-cable method thing with an amp and a loop, and I don't know. It sounds really good. I mean, everything, all the little effects I turned on, I'm like, well, that sounds good. Well, that drive sounds good. Well, that sounds good.
Yeah, even as standalone. But Mark, you can loop in, I think, 3 of your own overdrives and come in via their switching system. Yeah.
I'll have to get one.
Or if you want to, do like the 4-cable method with it, you can. You just have to use one of the loops to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's remarkable. They make a bigger one too, but if I were gigging here in Nashville, I'd have one of these and a couple of drives through an amp. That's all I'd need. It'd be so easy. Sad part is it's still in the box a year later because I don't ever play, but I have a buying problem apparently.
Don't we all?
I mean, it's
I have a whole 3 drawers of stuff, of pedals and stuff that's sitting over there, and I looking at going, I could just pick my favorites and sell the rest. I mean, they're all good. And everything I have is good. It's just, well, what's my favorite? And then I have to decide, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's the problem with guitar players is your favorite changes every 5 minutes, And sometimes I know guys bought the same pedal 3 times. Bought it, sold it, bought it again, sold it, bought it again.
I've done that.
I'm not. You know what? I'm not so much that way. I find if pedals speak to me from the beginning, if I plug it in and I go, wow, I love that.
Yeah,
that's a keeper.
Yeah,
if I plug it in and go, well, it's a phaser. Okay, yeah. Okay.
That's why those things are so hard to sell. No matter how good a phase or a trem sounds, it's just not a mainstay in a guitar rig. That's why it's always overdrive. I think overdrives outsell everything like 50-1.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah,
But there's
absolutely.
so many choices, though. It's amazing.
Well, I think Dave, you use Rick Hamill for repair work down in San Diego.
I do use Rick Hamill for all the stuff that I hate touching and don't want to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rick's been one of our designers for years. I've probably known Rick for 30 years as well because he's just a flippin' brilliant guy, but he's so patient.
Amazing.
He is. He's so patient with that stuff, and in fact, I don't know if you can see it. Do you remember these?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I've got that. I've got the blue Echo Drive and then the red Echo Drive.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen these, Mark?
No, what are they?
So, I mean, it's massive, right? Like, I don't know if I have another pedal here for reference, but all right, here. I'm going to give you a size reference. Oh, wait. Holy cow. Am I blind or what? Here's an 8. I had one. Look at the size difference.
That's a big difference, yeah.
Yeah, so massive because they've got transformers and tubes and internal power splices. It's like a little mini amplifier, right?
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, like the early 90s, it was, like Prescription Electronics and, of course, Boss, DOD. There weren't that many pedal companies. I think Klon came out, like 94 or something like that.
Full-Time came out.
Yeah, there just weren't that many. And I think literally there's over 6,000 pedal companies banging out pretty much the same stuff everybody else is, right? Just a different look. And it's like, oh, God. It's like, well, I mean, amps probably the same, probably not as many, but trying to stick out amongst the crowd of all these people that's tough. Because, I mean, you go back to this stuff, and it's like, this stuff's amazing, but who would put a pedal the size of their head on a board anymore, right?
Well, that's true, but then there's still something to be said for how good the pedals sound. And
yeah,
there's a lot of pedal companies, and a lot of them do quite, they do a nice job at what they're doing, and but there's definitely standouts. The ones that really shine. For me, I'm all about it having some sort of mojo to it, so to speak. Yeah. It's got to have some sort of juiciness or quality when you play it that just adds a richness or adds some sort of something. And if it doesn't, it falls really flat for me. It's like, oh yeah, it's just another fucking pedal. Great.
It's true.
And
you find the guys that are engineers but aren't guitar players.
Yeah.
And you find the guys that are more on the guitar player side and less of an engineer, and then you find the perfect balance. Not that that's better or worse, but I tend to find the ones that are built by engineers, they don't know what guitar players are looking for.
Right. No, yeah, that's the thing. And then also sometimes there's a disconnect if they don't play guitar. Yeah. There's a complete disconnect. You can't explain it to them either.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean you want it more juicy sounding? How do you explain this? How do you explain that? I mean, like a guitar player might understand that, Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand exactly what you mean.
I think we should all put a vocabulary book together of guitar speak, right? Juicy.
Yeah.
Juicy.
Right? Yeah. Juicy.
What are some of the? It's got hair on it.
There you go. That's another one.
But everybody knows what it means if you're a guitar player.
Right.
Say that to your wife, and they're like slapping you.
It's gritty. Yeah, there's all kinds of different words.
Oh yeah. Did you ever see that chart that was going around the internet for a while about? It was like a flow chart on when somebody borrows gear from you. How if it makes it to a certain level, it becomes theirs now.
I haven't seen that. That's funny.
Yeah, what is that level?
Yeah, I think
I want to know what the level is of when some client leaves gear with you, and how many years does it take before it's yours?
Yeah, this thing actually kind of intelligently maps that out for you.
Well, I sort of have my own version of that. If it's 10 years, it's mine.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I couldn't believe. By the way, I just want to say hi to Sean Tubbs. He's in the house. What's up, Sean?
Oh, hey, Sean.
And
That
Michael Nielsen was
is
in.
moist. There you go. He added that.
He added what? I can't see anything.
That tone is moist.
That's moist.
Thanks, Sean. I understand.
Sean, we need. You should have been over here with me. Pipes, bourbon,
Yeah,
good times.
I'm
pipes.
Scott. Mark probably still has that bottle of scotch, don't you?
Actually, my daughter took it to school.
Okay, good for her.
She's 21, so she took it. I said, "All right, enjoy it." There you
You
go.
tell her that's done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if they drank it. I can't
No.
imagine college kids drinking, triple malt scotch.
I know. I think there's some sort of valuable lesson in the fact that when you're young, you're drinking the crappiest alcohol you can. You know, the Boone's Farm and the Daniels. You get
Schnapps.
the dog. Yeah. Oh God, I can't even say that without getting sick.
MD 2020. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. And I just remember, I don't know, probably in the last 5 years, started trying high quality drinks. So my son plays hockey, as everybody on Facebook knows, but one of the dads is a scout for the Marlins, and so he has to go to the Dominican Republic all the time, or used to. I think he got removed from that territory, but man, he would bring home these high dollar rums, and when I think of rum, I think of like coconut flavored Malibu rum, and it just makes me want to throw up thinking about it.
Ugh.
He brought this stuff home, and it was amazing, like unbelievably good. And you have to learn, like, of course, when you're young, you're just drinking to get drunk, whereas we do this because we actually like the taste for a period of time. But it took me a while to learn that there actually is good tasting stuff out there.
Yeah, there is. Although
Yeah,
I can't say I have the palate for scotch yet or whiskey or anything. But
Mark, we're gonna get you really drunk at NAMM.
we have to. Yeah, we will. All right. That's fine.
I just want to see this.
He hasn't seen me let loose yet. That's all right. I will. I just haven't done it on video.
It's a mission now.
High end tequila. You're gonna get, yeah. There you go. That'll take you out quick.
Oh,
I haven't done that in years, so
it's good though. We had our housewarming party here like 7 years ago, and we bought some super high. It's like this big bottle, almost looks like a ceramic bottle with blue flowers and stuff all over it. It's like 100.
Yeah, that's Casa Azul.
Okay, yeah, that stuff's amazing, huh?
Yep.
Well, when I was
Oh yeah, that is like the most caramely, beautiful tasting. That's really good.
Yeah.
when I was in college, it was like for whatever reason we drank mezcal that had the worm at the bottom of it.
Right.
You know, just because it was like, oh, we got to get to the bottom of the worm.
Oh, yeah.
You know. Anyway, speaking of gear, what's that, Chris?
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say because living in San Diego, right? When I was under the age of legality, there we would go to Tijuana when it was safe.
Oh wow.
That was what it was all about, right? Drinking the tequila with a worm at the bottom.
Right. Exactly. That's funny. Good times. Did you see that video, Dave, of Stephen Fryette? That guitar player returned to him a power amp from 25 years later.
Yes. I did see that.
What is
Guitar
that?
Player magazine had an amp for 25 years.
Did he want his money?
They returned it to him.
Was that what it was? He wanted his money back?
No, he didn't even know.
No, he didn't know. He didn't even realize. He thought
forgot.
it had been returned years ago.
I see. A borrowed amp. I thought you meant like a customer was just returning it.
Yeah, no, it was for like a review, and it returned 25 years later in pristine condition. It was like just taken right out of the box and
It's like they found it.
got put
25
on a shelf somewhere and never got sent. And
Isn't that crazy?
yeah,
Apparently he didn't miss it though.
No, but I'm sure he's
Yeah?
glad that he
Yeah.
has it now. What is that, like a $4,000 amp? I mean, it's
Well, now, not then.
true.
So it was a VH
Yeah.
amp then.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a VHT 2150 in purple.
Wow, those were
Mhm.
great. I
Yeah.
wish we have a dealership out here. Oh, what are they called? Shiloh Music, kind of way outside of town. And they posted up on Facebook that they had this monstrosity of a rack, one of those big refrigerator racks for sale for $50. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get that thing because I've got all this old rack gear and nowhere to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them I'd take it, and then they sold it for $20 to some dude that walked in.
Oh,
Oh, no.
And go try to find one of those. I have no idea even how to find one of those anymore.
An old rack?
Yeah.
They come up out here.
search a Craigslist. I found a couple.
Yeah, I think this thing must have been 6 feet tall. It was crazy. It was great for, like, I try to collect some of that stuff. Like, I've got, the usual, like the Marshall JMP1, I think is what it's called, that preamp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then there's one that was really rare, and I've only seen a few of them. They're called ACTs. You remember those?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I think they were made by, like, Hafler
Mm-hmm.
or somebody that worked for Hafler. And then I've got, of course, the old ADA MP1.
Yeah.
What else? I try to collect those things because I think at some point in time people are going to want them again. They were cool. They had a great sound.
You might have a buying problem.
Oh, no, I admit it.
Yeah. Trust me, I've got a buying problem too. Actually, I want to mention a friend of mine, Adam Gutman. He gave me, although I have to get it fixed, he gave me a ADA MP1 preamp
Mm-hmm.
from the 80s, from the late 80s.
Yep.
So, Dave, I actually brought it over to a local place here.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to see if the guy said he's fixed them several times. So, we'll see.
Okay, well, there you go. It probably won't cost much. It'll be fine. Well, you got it for,
I got it for nothing. So,
if you spent $200 on it, big deal.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I spent $40 already, I think, for whatever it was for 1 hour of labor. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if he can fix it.
Do you guys have a favorite preamp from that era?
I haven't played many, quite honestly, but the
From
ones
the 80s era, or a little later, or
Well, just,
what?
I mean, the whole rack era, right? It kind of died out, in the late 90s?
Well, I'm biased a little bit. I would say a 4-channel original Egnator IE4 because I was involved with it.
Yeah.
But that was a good one. It was very popular. It became very popular with all the studio musicians out here.
Mhm.
So I mean, that was great. Original Soldano preamp.
Yeah, the motorized one? Or
No, not the motorized one. The X88, the 3-channel one.
Okay. How about the Hafler Triple Giant? Remember that one?
Yeah. So that was the the Hafler version of the original Bogner Triple Giant, which was which Bogner had made.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I'll never forget.
Bogner Fish was better later.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I had one of those Mesa Studio preamps. That's what they called them. You remember that thing?
Great clean sound.
You what?
Great clean sound.
Yeah, I could never get that thing to sound right on the overdrive side.
Clean sound.
So Dave,
Definitely had.
so this was the one you worked on?
Yeah, and that's the slightly later version. The first ones were red, but that is the preferred color for me. But yeah, why is it for sale?
Yeah,
How much is it?
$1,500.
Yeah, it's probably the going rate, to be honest, for that.
Really?
Those 2290s,
Yeah,
too.
that's cool. I have one here.
Wow.
A lot of that stuff's going up in value, though. You find the right ones. Like, you cannot find a Rocktron IntelliVerb. And if you do,
No, it's gonna save your life.
yeah, can't find them anywhere. Have a look.
Why? What's so good about that?
Well, we used to use those all the time. So first came the IntelliFX.
Yeah.
And then later, the IntelliVerb came out. So it was essentially the same type unit, but with the IntelliVerb, you could get twice the length of delay times. Because to do stereo delays, like to do ping pong delays, a lot of people would do 250, 500, 300, 600, different times like that to do a stereo delay with two separate delays with separate repeats, separate, everything. And the original IntelliFX only went up to 425 milliseconds per side or something, or 450, something like that. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But the IntelliVerb came out and you could do, I forgot what it went up to, but you could do long ones. And they just work great. I mean, they had an analog, the dry path was a basically digitally controlled analog. Had a hush in it. It just worked great. It sounded amazing. The effects sounded great. So I put those in a lot of rigs over the years, back when they were available,
Wow.
I wish something like that was available today, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of wish the whole rack gear thing would come back to a degree. Obviously not as the mainstay, but it's just convenient, right?
Yeah.
Part of it is coming back, I think.
Yeah, you have the Axe Effects rack stuff and the Kemper rack stuff. And the Axe Effects is amazing. All the effects are great. And for the price, it's a hell of a piece of gear.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I hear. Yeah, a lot of guys are using them in the loop for the effects, like you said.
Yeah, well, I get it, man. The guys around here that tour, when they use the Kempers because of the convenience. Yeah, and when you hear them play live, it literally sounds like a recorded guitar coming out of the PA system. But it still doesn't replace an amp in a room or that feel. But I totally get it. If I were a touring musician, I'd use something like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your budget and, convenience factor. But I don't know who was it that came on and said, I think it was Rick Beato who said, just get a roadie.
Just as expensive. They make left-handed Axe Effects, Mark, so you're in.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah. I've been looking at those left-handed Kempers and it's funny. Oh man, I posted recently. It was the most common response when someone is a left-handed guitar player. Oh, you're lefty. Oh, Jimi Hendrix was lefty. Oh, Kurt Cobain was lefty, and or the best one is oh, it's backwards.
Or wow, that sucks.
Well, that would not be good.
Wow, that sucks for you.
I have to admit, it looks bizarre when I watch it. When you see Eric Gales play, it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's just.
Oh, well, wait. Eric Gales is just on another planet, also.
Oh, I know.
But
just to watch it, it's like, whoa.
It's even worse though, because it's not only is it left-handed, it's strung righty.
Yeah.
And to watch when he's playing and doing licks and riffs and you're just looking at it going, I can't look.
I know. That's exactly what
looks all wrong. It's all backwards.
Yeah, your brain explodes, but it's kind of cool to watch. It's kind of like my son watches these. They're called satisfying videos where somebody's slicing soap, in patterns. You ever seen those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or those
I have to say, Eric Gales is probably one of the best guitar players that I can think of right now.
Oh, he's ridiculous.
Just a monster.
One of the NAMMs probably 3 years ago, we went to the Eminence party.
Yeah.
It was all the hot shots of guitar player world. And he came later after all these guys were playing, and they were all phenomenal. And then he gets up there, and you could just see every one of them just shrunk back like, oh, yeah. He owns the stage.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I like it's the thing about him is not only this he plays with that reckless abandon, that fire and that edge that most people don't anymore. Like, he's not like Eddie, but Eddie had that recklessness to the playing where you didn't quite know if he was going to screw it up, just like played with that fire, and the real greats always played with that kind of fire and stuff, and I think he's really great.
We had that almost exact conversation not too long ago, and we tried to come up with a list of guys that would fit in that category, the guys that played with that just ferocity, that just commanded their instrument. And there really aren't that many. I think we came up with, of course, Eddie, Eric Gales. I thought Gary Moore in his rock and roll days was
Stevie Ray.
Yeah, but that was more of a bluesy thing. But I get it, yeah. Who else would you put in that category? I don't think there's too many.
Well, we're not just talking about chops. We're just talking about the veracity of how they played. I mean, Pete Townsend.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, and Jimmy Page to a lot of extent, something could be said even.
I think Hendrix, clearly.
Hendrix, of course. I mean,
anybody?
Yeah.
Eric Gales that would fit that bill in your mind?
Anyone today that plays with that kind of, it's about how a guitar player attacks the guitar for me. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do they smack a chord? I
think to a degree Josh Smith fits in there. I mean, for his style of music, he came and played here. I don't know, about 3 weeks, a month ago, and we went and saw him at that two old hippies place.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his thing. It's definitely blues based, but man, how he was able to play those strings is just phenomenal to me. But he plays with some pretty good intensity, I think.
Yeah.
There are two other guys that I just thought of. One is Dave Black.
Dave Black.
Less known.
What's that? Less known, but I saw a video of him. But
Dave was famous. He was a famous guitar player out of Detroit that is a friend of mine that had a band. He was in that Decline and Fall of the Western Civilization movie.
Yeah.
He was in the band Seduce out of Detroit, who did one major label record on IRS Records, was for Stuart Copeland's label. But you can't describe the kind of there was a recent article I think I put up on my Facebook that was written about him, and you can't describe the impact that they had in Detroit.
Right.
They made a scene there that was, they would just forget it. No one could play after them. No one could play before that. I mean, they would just lay waste to everyone. Mm. And he plays with such a he's so ferocious with his playing.
Yeah. What was the name?
And
Seduce.
Huh?
I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
Seduce.
Seduce. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like when I grew up in the '80s, I used to go see them all the time, and I mean, they would be packing these. They'd be there's a famous rock club there called Harpo's, mm-hmm. and they would play 2 nights at Harpo's sold out, and that's like a 3,000 seat, venue. And this is a local band we're talking about, so they were they created a scene there. That was their world and their turf.
Well, they still play live too.
Oh, do they?
They still play to this day. Yeah, I mean they do a show or two a year, and they just played. I just saw them in Detroit when I was there, and it was packed.
That's the video I saw, and I was like, "Damn, that guy can play, man."
Yeah.
There's something about Detroit and amp builders too.
Yeah.
All right.
It's crazy, man. I mean, so many of my favorite amps came from either you, Egnator, Danny Russell.
Yeah, sure.
Danny Russell, Guy Hedrick.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, like Joe Naylor wasn't an amp guy, but that was Danny Russell's design.
Well, it's just the town. It was a rock and roll town, and and the funny thing is, a lot of that started with that band.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, well, it went back further than that, but I mean, a lot of that in the early '80s, it started with them there, and it was just like, people are like, what is he using? How is he getting that sound? What the hell is going on here?
What was he using back then?
He had a very interesting thing that they did. There used to be an old amp guy there named Fast Eddie. I don't know his whole name. This was actually before my time, kind of. And he used to take Marshalls and put a post-phase inverter master on it, and then he'd put an insert effects loop in, which is just passive. And then what Dave would use was this DBX 118 compressor, and it would go in this insert loop, and it would literally just hammer the amp pretty much, and it just it has this exploding sort of tone, and real raw and really, really cool. He still uses them to this day.
That's cool. There's a guitar player, I have to say, that he's down in San Diego, and you probably know him. Jeff Snyder, you know him?
Yeah, I know Jeff. I remember when yeah, sure. I knew Jeff. He worked at Hafler years ago.
Yeah. Made Snyder amps. He is just a vicious guitar player.
Yeah, Ferocious.
Yeah. He's a St. Louis guy, but he and Rick, right? Hamill had the Jeff's guitars together, or at least Rick worked out of that. But yeah, to this day, he's still one of the guys that I always remember as just being that guy that can just squeeze everything out of a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many of them. I mean, there's a lot of great players here in Nashville, but they're very, I don't know how to put it. I mean, they're amazing in their knowledge of playing, but they're very controlled.
Right, reserved.
Yeah. Like Tom Back is really, like, if he goes, right, because he came from Cleveland, total rock and roll town. He can play anything, but he's one of those guys that's just fun to listen to because he's a piano player, a really good piano player. And you can hear that kind of a thing, I think, in a guitar player that really understands piano. But he's a great player. You ever listen much to him?
I haven't.
No, not really.
Yeah, look him up on YouTube. He's just kind of an understated guy, but they call him the session man because he's on just about everything.
What's his name again?
Tom Bukovac. B-U-K. A-V-A.
Session guy, mainly.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's been on the road with like Bonamassa and a lot of guys. I think a lot of guitar players know who he is, but yeah, he's just great, really musical. But yeah, I don't know. There's guys here that are just amazing. Like Guthrie Trapp is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget though. We were in Germany together, and we were doing this kind of it was a thing for Warwick, and it was kind of like a little mini NAMM show for the Eastern European dealers to come see product. And we just had to man a booth, and we're just bored out of our minds. And of course, the only thing in my repertoire is Van Halen licks. And Guthrie can play he's so deep with his bag of tricks. And I remember Phil X showed up, and Phil's Van Halen nut as well. So he and I just started playing all this crazy Van Halen stuff just for fun. And Guthrie's kind of like wasn't quite clear on what we were playing. So I started playing, Van Halen tunes so he kind of associated what we were doing. He's like, how the hell have I never heard this guy? And I'm like, wow.
What?
But it just kind of tells you, like, he grew up in the Florabama area, down by Destin.
Mm-hmm.
And he was I think he was like a child prodigy on the mandolin. I think he won like a national mandolin competition when he was 13. He's just one of those guys that's just freaky good at everything he plays. Mm-hmm. He just came up under that umbrella. So he was probably just never really exposed to it. But I think when you're exposed to, like we're talking about, the guys that just play with ferocity, I think there's just kind of an animalistic thing that resonates with just about any guitar player. Mm-hmm. Like when you see a country guy, you're just blown away by all that crazy chicken picking and stuff. But it doesn't have that visceral thing, Yeah. Technically, it's really cool. It's like watching, I don't know, Guthrie Govan or, the technical wizard guys. It's really cool to watch, but does it capture you? And I'm not saying he doesn't. I think he does some really cool stuff, but the guys that just 100% relied on that ferocity to write their music around, and their guitar tone came around, everything like that. Those are the guys I love. I love Malcolm Young,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and Angus, totally.
Yeah.
You know who I saw who put me to sleep, and I like his guitar playing. I like his music. John Mayer. Just so. Just I don't know. I fell asleep at his concert.
Yeah.
Honestly, I did. I really did with my wife. It's just like, and either that I'm just getting old, but this was like 10 years ago, so is like it was a while ago. But she was like nudging me. I'm like, I can't stay up. This is really just killing me. There was nothing like it didn't excite me to watch.
I saw him early on. In fact, he was the first date that I ever had with my wife years ago in San Diego State, when he was brand new. And I thought he was really good. I think he played with a little bit more energy then. Less complacent, but yeah, I got a buddy that's been teching for him, and he was actually playing in Nashville on the exact same date 17 years or 15 years later. What was it? 17 years later here in Nashville on that exact same date, but we never went, unfortunately. Would have been fun, but yeah, I would have had a good comparison at that point. If I had fallen asleep, then I would say, yep, you're right.
Yeah, it wasn't a good show, at least from my point of view. But I mean, I've seen other performances where he was more alive, So, or at least
Well, I mean, isn't that funny how the list gets really short when you start thinking about that? I mean, of course, the three of us are on that list, but that's where it stops.
Definitely, yeah. I've been on that list for a while. Yeah. I know you just got on it, so welcome.
You're on the left list.
That's right. Yeah,
that's the other.
I'm up there with Hendrix and yeah. But yeah, I mean, Eric Gales is a great player, man.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Fun.
I just want to see him come out with like an album that, or some music that like original music that can really be not popular, but kind of make him a bit more well known.
Sure. Yeah.
He hasn't done anything like that. So there was one album. Actually, there was one album. I think Michael Nielsen said he worked on that album, didn't he? Dave?
I don't think so. No, he worked on sorry, mental block. Never mind.
I don't know. There was a guy named Philip Sayce.
Another guitar player.
Sayce is
Philip
great.
Sayce, yeah.
Yeah, there was Philip Sayce, but I could have sworn I think he said that he worked on maybe Eric Gale's album, but maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, so what else? You guys getting ready for?
You have any cool things you guys are taking to NAMM this year? Any new stuff?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, something.
We played the guessing game. Is it an amplifier?
I'm not saying yet. I can't say yet. There's a new one.
Does it knob?
It has knobs on it. It has tubes in it.
Is it purple?
It could be.
I still have. What did I get? I thought I bought the 100-watt from you, but I think it's the 50-watt.
Yeah, you bought the B50.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's great. It's literally right behind you, just in case you needed to know. I feel like someone's watching you.
Ah, cool.
It's a nice amp.
Yeah. It's like, Jesus, the 100-watt amps, they're unusable. I mean, master volume and all, they're great, but 50 watts is about all I need, especially after cranking up these old school dudes. It just tortures your ears like no other amp does. That old loud kerrang of an old 100-watter.
Yes.
My ears itch after I.
It's knocking things around in there.
It really is. I was either dumber or smarter after listening to that amp. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. Well.
We had something. The Ape is kind of it. We've got, like I said, some overdrive right now that's almost done, and then we've got a lot of cool stuff in the DSP world coming. But that's why NAMM is kind of like for me. Mm-hmm. I'll probably go just to watch Mark. Yeah.
Watch me do what?
We're gonna take the video of you once you get too drunk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just come hang out in our booth by our bar.
Yeah.
get your ears blown off, but after a few drinks, you won't care.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I've seen you after 3 days of that. You have the look of murder in your eyes.
Yeah, you know.
That's funny.
Even
yeah, thinking in my head, if one more person comes up to me and wants to talk to me, I'm gonna strangle him.
It's tough.
No,
man.
I'll talk to you.
But it's tough. It's a tough 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's just a fleeting, idea that comes in your head about some horrible death thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course, amp guys have that one question that gets asked 3 zillion times that you have to answer. Of course, pedal's a little bit different, but there's always that one question. For us, it was, what's the difference between the gold and the silver Archer? I can't tell you how many times I've had to answer that question. What's yours?
One's silver and one's gold. That would be my answer.
I know. Believe me, I want to simplify it that way. Or just say, duh. Not effective, though.
So one sounds like the original silver one, and one sounds like the original gold one.
I know. It's even written on our website, but hey. Wow. Yeah, you've got enough products, though, where I'm sure you've got some of that cross-pollination where people are asking the ridiculous questions.
Someone goes, L. Scott Music goes, is that what happened when I said hello? I don't know. It depends on when in NAMM that it happens.
That's funny.
I don't think people who come...
Look, this has nothing to do with anyone, and it has nothing to do with that. It's just that, by the... and I don't mean anything by it either, but if you had that many questions asked of you, at some point in time, your head wants to explode, and you just want to get away and hide in a corner.
Right, yeah,
just for a little while, because it's just like let me just walk away for a minute. No, just because it's just too much. It's just an onslaught of oh hey yeah well blah blah. And the worst part is for me, I have a problem with I have no problem focusing on someone's conversation that they're having, but when there's another conversation happening here and you're hearing it, and another one here and you're hearing it, you're kind of like, wait, what? I get distracted.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to get distracted, but it happens, especially at NAMM.
Well, and you're yelling out the answers for 4 days straight, and your voice gets torched, and it takes a toll on you. It does. And I don't think people who come to visit understand how difficult it is when you're just sitting at a booth playing or answering questions, because it's so loud in there. Like, what is it, like 98 dB constantly
in that room? Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, could be. And you're just yelling over the top of all of that. Yeah.
Or you walk outside and you're trying to talk to someone, and then 5 other people come up wanting to talk to you and take a picture or sign something or do something, and it's all well and good, and I'm happy to do it, and that's not an issue. But boy, sometimes you just need a little break. Just let me walk away for a second, leave me alone, and then you try to walk away, and then someone stops you in the aisle.
Yeah, well, that's good. You're famous. You walk in my shoes, nobody knows who you are. That's why I said, hey, show tonight, we'll get 11 people to come on. What I have to say. Most of them family members.
We got 119 people, actually.
Nice.
So, 120. Thanks for everybody for watching, by the way.
Yeah. I don't see what's on your side, so people are able to ask questions there, right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to go through some questions and see what people have. Harmonicaster said the electric guitar was invented for country music.
Yes, it was.
That's actually true. Lucky Licks. I recently got a Rockett Blue Note OD. Older Pro Series. Fantastic. Got it before they vanished completely. Why did you get rid of the hot knob on the Tour Series? Can you talk more about the Blue Note?
Yeah, sure. Well, that Blue Note's still being made. It was not retired. So if you go to our website, they're still out there. Dealers still order them. But so the hot switch was kind of in my opinion, was a little bit of it didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do, because it just, when you turned it into hot mode, it just sent more signal to ground and kind of gave it a false more gain thing that wasn't as natural sounding. And I'd say the majority of the guys that use that pedal used it in the non-hot switch mode. So we knew that it was, a well-received pedal, so we just made the Tour Series version of it for those that didn't really want the hot switch, because when you engage the hot switch, the bottom end control almost became ineffective. So, but the old one's still available, and we're actually thinking about doing a run of 100 units of that old Animal pedal with the hot switch or the snarl switch, and we've talked about possibly adding it back into the Tour Series products. I just hate toggle switches because they always break.
Yep.
Yeah. And with that Tour Series, that was our thing. It's just going to be potentiometers. That's it. I kind of found that, at least with pedals, like amps, I think you can get away with it more, but the more options you offer people, the more options they have to be disappointed. You know what I mean? The simpler the in pedals.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Why do the toggle switches break so often? What do you think?
Well, they just do, because, if they get dropped, or, they're just flimsy, the design to begin with. And I thought, we used those mountain switches, which I think were about as good as you're going to get. But we just found that, we'd have to pay for an RMA to have one shipped back constantly, because the toggle switch just either failed or broke. And you know how it is. People will tell you that, we get pedals back all the time where, hey, this thing's fried completely. I don't know what happened. And it's like, we all know that it got plugged into
an 18
the wrong
volt
or the wrong voltage or whatever. But we're just trying to mitigate a lot of the things that would, be subject to either breaking or failing.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Brian Robinette said Sean Tubbs J Rockett OD pedal? ?
Oh yeah, it's been in the works. We kind of have the concept. I don't know if Sean's still in there or not. We have the concept. It would be done if we got off our butts a little bit more. Like Sean has already given me all the ideas. I mean, we know what we want to do. I just have to get something here to give him to, make sure that he gives it the thumbs up before we do it. But yeah, that's actually been in the works for a while.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Sean is a monster player.
Yeah, he is.
He really is.
He's too, like, you watch him and you're just like, what the hell did he just do?
Right.
There's not many players where you can't hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what amazes me is, and you guys know Brett Papa?
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. So Brett moved out here, and myself, Brett, and Sean all went to lunch the other day, and we were just talking about all that stuff. And it's crazy because we hire a guy like Sean to do demo videos for us, and I think it's probably the case with the Friedman stuff that he does as well. But people aren't going to his channel to hear demos of the products. They're just going there to steal licks and listen to him play. He's just one of those players that's so different. We're the other way around, believe me. But
well, I'm sure he gets a lot of attention because of his playing, that's for sure. But
yeah, what amazes me is when he does those videos, all that stuff you're hearing, like he's programming the drums and the bass, and he's writing all these amazing songs just to demo a product. And he goes way over and above. Like, I think there's the handful of guys that just do an amazing job, like Pete and Sean. We kind of use the same guys that have that format. And, man, it takes a lot of work. I don't know, Dave, have you ever made a video like that? With all the different camera angles and...
Yeah, no, I'm not. No, that's why we pay them.
Yeah. It's just, I honestly don't think people really, for the most part, have any clue how much work goes behind creating one of those videos.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done one, and just doing this show is a lot of work, so I can imagine just filming, editing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Syncing up audio with video, all that stuff is beyond anything I'm aware of how to do.
I've had more, like, well-known guitar players who contact me about product, and then the next thing they say is, "Man, that Sean Tubbs is like my new favorite guitar player."
That's because he's great.
He is.
Yeah, he really can play, and he's a super nice guy. That's
great
awesome. Frank Pitcha, thanks for the question. He says, "Hey Chris, please give us a background on the Dude Overdrive. What was the inspiration, and where did you see it sitting amongst the where do you see it sitting amongst the myriad of D types?"
Well, all right. I've certainly had to explain that one many times. Obviously, everybody knows that it was a Dumble thing, right? And that's a hard, as you know, Dave, that's a hard thing to capture in a 9-volt circuit.
Mm-hmm.
But so Michael Britt does all those Kemper profiles, and he actually had Keith Urban's Dumble in his possession for a period of time. And I thought, oh man, take that time to kind of like get to know the thing, because it's not like everybody has a Dumble available to go check out.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a bunch of time with that thing, and of course he was profiling it, and we tried to kind of cop the DNA, so to speak, of that Dumble Overdrive. And that particular amp, I didn't think it sounded that great, to be honest with you. It was really, really bottom heavy, and who knows if it was modded over time or not. And as anybody who has ever played Dumbles or knows the circuit, no two Dumbles really sounded alike. They might have had the same DNA, but they all sounded a little bit different. Who knows if they were built different. So what we did is we kind of tried to extract the DNA of what a Dumble thing does, that smooth, tight, kind of thing. And then we targeted a tone, which was the Robin Ford Talk to Your Daughter album. And we tried to kind of cop that particular tone. Ironically, we did that for not only the Dude, but we did it for the Boing reverb as well, because we loved the reverb on that album. And, got it as close as we could get it. So that's the best reference for what that pedal was supposed to sound like. But I found it ironic, years later, probably 3 years later, or 2 years later after the Dude came out, I got a call from Robin Ford's tech, or the tech that he was using in England, a guy named Simon Law. He was like, yeah, we need to get another Dude and another Boing. And we had never told the story that was how those pedals were designed, because we just said it was a Dumble thing. But it was amazing how Robin Ford himself found his way to those two pedals, not knowing that was ever designed based on those two tones.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great. That's cool.
Yeah, and then that new HRM, you've heard of the Hot Rubber Monkey EQ mod Dumbles. It was, it's kind of one of those things where it was an internal EQ, if I am correct, Dave, that you could change. But we we kind of picked where we thought it sat. And so the low end on the Hot Rubber Monkey is voiced completely different than the Dude. So it's a little more mid-range focused, a little less big bottom end. But still, how close can you get with a pedal? I feel like we did a pretty good job, because I was able to play them side by side, let a few other people do it, and I thought it got that thing pretty close.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. G-Man Music mentioned Neil Sean. He's another guy who definitely has ferocity to his playing.
Yeah, what I love about Neil Sean is his sense of melody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever had that like he had it.
John Gershon said Phil X. I would agree. Phil X is definitely a ferocious player.
Yeah, without a doubt. Which, by the way, we might be doing a little Phil X thingy thing coming up soon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Like a collaboration kind of thing?
Yeah, on a pedal.
Nice.
Cool.
And that's going to be crazy. What was his first pedal that he did? Fuck Jazz pedal?
Yeah.
Jazz is... Yeah, the Fuck Jazz is Dead pedal or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Fuck Jazz.
Yeah.
That's great.
Nobody mentions Nuno Betancourt, Jim Becker said. Nuno is a ferocious player.
He is. I would agree with that.
Yeah. It's just, I guess, whether you like his style.
I'm going to get my Jeff Beck here. I don't get it.
Please.
I don't get it.
Yeah. He could be a ferocious player when he wants.
Okay, I'll give him that. I just don't get it.
Sure you don't.
No, really.
Really?
I've never liked Nuno at all.
Oh,
ever.
Nuno. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Jeff Beck for a second. So Nuno,
No.
you don't get it. Nuno, you don't get it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't know.
He was influenced by Eddie big time. I mean, I like his funky chops and stuff like that for sure.
Is he funky though? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of his stuff is pretty funky. I like him. I mean, he's got some.
That's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, like I think you could find
Features
several. I think you could find several of those guys out of the '80s. Like there was a band years ago called Cry Wolf. You remember them?
Yep.
They had a guitar player that was pretty vicious. I forgot his Chris something, I think was his name. Maybe I'm wrong. And then a band called 9.0. That was Ray Luzier's first band.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
They were out of Northern California. They had a guitar player. Forgot his name. There were a lot of guys back then that,
Yeah, sure.
top thing. But they just, never went anywhere or disappeared.
Residing in the where are they now file?
Yeah.
Here's a good question from Eric Johnson. How do you become an amp tech? Seriously, it sounds like a cool job. Dave,
You don't
advice?
You don't want to do that. Wow, how do you become? Well, first of all, you got to start learning about amps. So, how do you become an amp tech? That's a very good question. You need to have someone to mentor you a little bit or something because, you can start to learn things and read about things online and different things like that and start maybe building your own little tiny amps and start off small and then kind of work your way up. And, there's a lot of resources to learn from, but you almost need someone to, help you, to be honest, to really start you off.
You need somebody to tell you not to stick a screwdriver back there near the tubes while it's on.
Yeah,
Right?
this is true.
That's a good lesson.
Don't stick your tongue in there. It's like, you almost need to apprentice with someone, to be honest, and learn. I was fortunate enough to have, Bruce Egnater that taught me tons and tons of stuff. But you have to be really motivated to teach yourself also. So, if you're really motivated, you'll figure out how to learn it.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of trial and error in the amp world.
Probably early on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Someone said take the Egnater amp class. Yeah, that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone take Bruce's classes. So definitely start.
Yeah, look that up. I forget your name who asked that question, but yeah, look it up. If you're really interested, Bruce's class is probably the best way to go.
What are you going to do, Mark?
What's that? When am I going to do it? I'd love to do it. I travel way too much. It's just, it's crazy. I wish I could have some. Fitting NAMM in is just a hardship. It's crazy, but anyway, I'd like to do it one day. Wyatt Willis, to a total amateur, seems the Dumble thing is mostly about the right mid-range content.
I don't know if that's for you or for me, Dave.
For either one of you guys.
You have to be. What do I want to say about Dumble? Every amp, no two amps are alike, first off. And some are much better than others. A lot of people that have used Dumbles over the years mostly use the clean channel, actually. And with things pushing the clean channel. So it's hard to really put into words what is the Dumble thing. What is the quintessential Dumble amp that will give you that, I've heard a couple great ones and I've heard a lot of ones that aren't so good. And like my favorite one I ever heard was Steve Ferris's. That he used to have, and Steve Ferris sat there with him forever, beating him up about how he wanted it to sound, and so he got a special amp out of it.
Dave, do you know Henry Kaiser?
I know of him. Sure.
Yeah, he's got a great story because he owns the Dumble Steel String Singer number 001.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think he's had 4. I think he's sold a few over the years, but he has a great story because he said he was 17 and he was practicing with his band in his garage, and this dude drives by on his motorcycle, turns around and comes back in, and it was Howard Dumble. He's like, "Hey man, I build amps. You guys want to hear one?" They're like, "Sure." So he goes back to his house, sticks an amp head on his motorcycle and brings it back, and they were friends ever since. And so he's had Dumble since the beginning of Dumble time, so to speak. But
yeah.
He did say, though, that they kind of lost touch because Howard kind of lost his mind over the years. It happens, like solder fumes, right?
Could be. I'm also trying to figure out. You would think the original leaded solder was really bad for you, right? But I kind of think that the lead free is even worse. The fumes are worse.
We'll know about 10 years when we interview you.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave, how many fingers am I holding up? Thursday.
That's funny. Let's see. We had a question.
Here's one from Mike Nielsen.
Oh, go ahead.
Dave, are there multiple Jose mods? Yes. There is not one Jose mod. There is, realistically, there's like 3 or 4 of them with varying amounts of gains and different things. And I know them all.
So, that being said, is the whole Jose Van Halen thing a farce, or is it true?
Jose worked and serviced Ed's amps. I never, ever, ever, in any of the amps I've ever serviced of his, which is a lot of them, have ever seen a Jose mod.
Yeah.
I've seen his mark on servicing, like, like heavy duty impedance selectors and tubes and just, remote standby, things like that. Never, ever a mod.
Well, so,
and like in that book, this Japanese book, there's all those pictures of all those amps. I've been in about half of them, and none of them have mods.
Well, so that kind of, me being the Van Halen freak, I'm going to start asking all the questions. But so years ago, you guys know Andy Johns?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The producer, passed away a few years ago. So I got to know him a bit over the years, and he calls me one day, and we're just talking about the whole Van Halen thing, and he produced that For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge record, right?
Yep.
And he was telling me that's the record that Ed's, his super lead, blew up on. And he ended up having to finish that record with a Soldano, which he said he totally hated it. But that's all, obviously.
That was not, well, at that point in time, he was starting to become disenchanted with that Marshall.
Yeah.
And that's when it started passing from hand to hand, trying to get it, back. But yeah, he used the Soldano that whole record. I was there.
Were you?
I saw it. I remember delivering stuff to the session. In fact, the cabinet that appeared on most of that came from Andy Brower's studio rentals.
Yeah.
And that was paired with the Soldano for the whole entire record.
Yeah.
And also at that point in time, you started seeing the PV prototype up there also.
Sure.
So it was already, he had already got the Soldano and had started using it before that record started.
And I think he liked it.
He liked it.
Yeah, and that's just those were his words. Certainly couldn't.
Well, I mean, it's sort of essentially yes, but it, I don't know if it's exactly that way, but yeah.
Yeah, and I heard. Do you know Tim Yarnig by chance?
No.
He designed that pedal, the Gristle King. It's one Greg Koch uses.
Mm-hmm.
He designs amps as well, and he was working for Peavey, and they had that 100-watt there at some point in time, and he said he got to bust into it. And he said, "Yeah, it was just bone stock."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's funny that you hear all that stuff out there. Now, is the whole voltage running it at 90 or 91 volts true?
Yeah.
Okay. See, it
was a Marshall, a relatively stock Marshall. And when I say relatively stock, it's the stock architecture, maybe a part or two changed, but nothing that's super drastic. And
value changes, just parts changes.
Well, maybe a value change, slight value change, or this or that. But the thing is, I was in a lot of the amps, and some of them are just bone stock, literally.
Yeah.
And so, the main one had a slight change, but it was a certain era amp. It's pretty much just found whatever amps he had and turned them on 10 with the Variac and cranked up it made the tubes quite hot in their bias. And
now, didn't he?
Sevens. The original amps in the early 70s though had Mullard tubes in them.
Did they?
If you look at all the Japan pictures from '78, it's all Mullards. In fact, Eddie told me that. He used to get Mullard tubes and put them in them.
Yeah, good luck finding those.
So I mean, it's just what, the right guitar with the stock Super League cranked, biased correctly with the Variac, and maybe or maybe not boosted with an EQ from time to time, will get you. It's that sound. But you got to be able to play like him.
Well, yeah, and
now you got to be able to actually control that beast of an amp.
You got to be able to do. See it, right?
Nice. There you go.
And the thing is if you I've mentioned this before in the air, if you ever heard that Steven Rosen interview from years ago, it's on YouTube. You can hear it, and he's playing a clean amp, and he's playing riffs from his new record, which I think was Van Halen 2 or something at the time of this interview. Right. And he's playing riffs. And he's playing through a clean amp, or even acoustically, I'm not exactly sure, completely clean, and he is playing every hammer on and pull off and pick squeal and everything clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I would never.
It sounds just like it, and you're like, well, there you go. It's not. It's his. The hands.
Yeah. DNA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Dave. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
What if you're left-handed then? Then you're in trouble. It's in the hand.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I've been working this left hand for a long time, so.
Well, careful! Don't get too close.
Sorry. So, Dave, quick question on the Van Halen setup. Did he slave an amp so he didn't really run his Echoplex through the front of the amp? He was actually slaving.
No, front.
Okay.
Right. Originally. I mean, latter he started slaving things and running post delays and stuff. But when that started exactly is a little foggy.
But I'm talking like
it's all in front, man. It's just all in front. I remember talking to Rudy. Someone mentioned name dropping. I'm sorry. I remember talking to Rudy Laren and about that literally, and I asked him about it. Yeah, he just goes, "No, it's just like Marshall, everything on 10, the Variac." And it was all this stuff in front of the amp. Noisy as hell. And if you hear the Echoplex, it's clean repeats. It's not, you're not hearing distorted repeats.
Yeah.
When you hear it on the record, you hear the repeats are. I mean, the Echoplex is a little grittier than a normal delay, so it's has a little grit to it still, but it's there. Yeah, it's in front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds great too.
Noisy as hell, though. Had to have been noisy as hell.
I guess. Yeah.
Well,
Hissy.
What was that What was that amp maker recently that made that amp that had the built-in variac? Forgot the name of that amp. It was the guy's last name. You know what I'm talking? No,
Well, John Sir has an amp that has a built-in variac.
no,
There's a few of them.
before those guys. Yeah, it was a funky last name. Can't remember. I was just curious if that worked. I mean, if you do that in an amp, don't you have to make precautions so you don't fry tubes?
No, the variac going down doesn't fry anything.
Really? So
Yeah.
if you hooked like this 70 Marshall I have up to a variac and dropped it to what, 90, 91 volts, is that what it was?
It won't hurt it.
Well, all right.
It actually saves the tubes.
So then what was like, this has become an interview Dave Friedman about Eddie Van Halen night, but I heard that Eddie fried his tubes all the time.
Well, okay. So here's what I was told. In the old days, they just have a box of tubes, right?
Right.
And if a tube went bad in an amp, they would just pull one out of the box and shove it in the amp. No regard for biased or matched sets or anything at all. And these amps were running full bore, you know.
Right.
So, tubes could be way out of bias range and they could red plate. And if they red plate, they could literally take out a transformer and you could do all this at various times. Ed could also have been turning the variac up.
Yeah.
Or down, either way, so at one point in time, Jose actually matched tubes for them. So they'd have matched sets, and then those were put into the amplifiers, and then they stopped blowing transformers.
Ah.
So that's what I was told.
That makes sense. I know, Dave, you got to run in just a minute, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to make sure. He's like, right, yes, sure, I have to leave.
Well, yeah, I gotta go somewhere.
Okay.
I got a few minutes.
Kev8055, thanks for the question. Is the Rockaway Archer pedal the same circuitry as the Archer pedal plus the EQ?
Yes. Except it's true bypass.
Okay. All right. And then I'll have this as the last question for us. Wyatt Willis with the super chat. Thank you. Dave, if you've ever seen one of their anything special... Wait.
Yeah, that's a tough...
Dave, if you've ever seen one of their anything special or different about Frank Levy's mods, do you share a similar philosophy for high-gain modding Marshalls, obviously with your own way of doing it?
Well, how do I answer that? What I've seen, the Franks, they weren't extremely high gain. They were just little tweaks to get a little more gain out of kind of like an 800 sort of circuit. They were by far not the gain level that we're at these days. It was a much more a sane amount of gain and probably better amount of gain. It's all very similar. It's just gain stages cascading. It's all the parts you put in between that make up how much gain it has or the tone of it. So I don't know if that answers anything. But I tried.
No, he basically wanted to know, was there anything special about the mods? So
I don't think anything special. I mean, I think some of the ones I've heard, and I haven't heard that many. I mean, I played Slash's one and worked on his amp, and I thought it sounded really good. Bright, but very good.
So I have a last question for you then, Dave. Is there
Interview Dave.
Social Security first, please? Did you? Are there any amps? You don't have to name amp builders per se, but is there anything out there that you've ever looked at that you were kind of like blown away or impressed by because it was a unique design, or do you feel like everything else is just kind of, it is what it is? There's not a whole lot you can do other than the obvious.
There were some unique ideas and designs in Danny Russell's stuff.
Okay.
Danny approached things definitely differently than most people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's brilliant in what he did, and I think a lot of his designs were really cool. I mean, like the Nailer amps are great.
Yeah. I got a couple of his
unique and some unique ideas from the traditional ones. I mean, I know you have. What do you have? The 45 or something, or what? The Belchley.
Yeah, the Belchfire 45, which is it's kind of like a
just his take on a JTM 45 kind of thing.
Yeah, but with EL34s, and then I've got the one that's called the Bomber 50, which it's kind of like if you took a Nailer and a Marshall and made it.
Yeah, I think the Bomber 50 was the kind of the upgraded Nailer circuit, so to speak. I'm guessing. I haven't seen one in person or played one in person.
Yeah, they are different for sure. A little more on the Marshall-y side because how Nailers are really fat and warm and thick.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a little bit more snarky, a little more Marshall-y, but they're both great. They're 2 amps. Like people are always like, "You gonna keep those?" I'm like, "Yeah, those are 2 amps that I will keep." I don't know if he's making amps anymore.
I don't know either. I mean, I think he still has a website up about it, but I don't know.
Well, years ago, and I may have told this story before. Dave King and I are good friends. When I lived in Dallas, and Dave was building them because he bought them from what was his name, Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle Kurtz.
And I think along the way, Kyle had some sort of a Band-Aid fix on one and just started building them that way, where one cap on the treble was like 100 times larger than the original Nailer. So there was an era of the Dallas era Nailers that people said, they just sounded like crap. They didn't sound anything like the Detroit era Nailers. Well, I ended up putting Dave in touch with Danny, who obviously doesn't have a fondness for his whole experience with Nailer over the years, but he agreed to help Dave fix it, and he did. And it was just that. It was one cap. I don't know where it was, but it was like 100 or 1,000 times bigger, some crazy thing. And so now the current era Nailers sound just like the original Detroit ones.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have found that his amps have been some of the very few that I'm just like, yeah, those are amps I'll never get rid of.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
That's cool. By the way, you were asking about Variac and an amp. Metropolis makes an amp also. George Metropolis.
Yeah, I said Metropolis.
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to wrap up because I know that Dave's got to leave. So we're going to have our next show, I believe. I got to square it away with Dave, but I think the next show is on the 20th before we hit the holidays. So look out for that. Check out our Facebook page. Please subscribe. Go to Sweetwater, please. Buy J Rockett audio pedals, Friedman gear. And Chris, thank you so much for coming.
Or whatever hell else you want to buy from Sweetwater.
Exactly. Get the Boss headphones if you can, even though they're sold out. Chris, thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, of course, anytime. And Dave, I'm going to get you an ape for Christmas, all right?
Oh, cool, man. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll send you out.
Awesome. I want to check it out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know what you think for sure. I certainly want a guy with the experience you have to give me his opinion on it.
Yeah, I can't wait to check it out, really.
Yeah, awesome.
All right.
Fun.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back soon. And Chris, thanks again. Check out J Rockett Audio. And Chris, hang on just while I hang up, okay?
All right. Cool.
Take care, everybody.